got their kids wagon in the garage and nested and laid, had their babies.
Javier is running
So
it
then
right
they're
now.
like,
He is running.
Yes.
He didn't want to be, I left the large
Shoot it.
font on the meeting minutes that
Says
said,
late.
said he was late. He didn't want that
Saw
to
you
happen
running.
again.
We're waiting just for you to walk
just for
in.
you.
Oh, man. Sorry.
All right, we start the 4B meeting for Tuesday, June 18th, 2019 at 6:33 p.m. All members are present except member Van Vessem. Move on to the public forum. If there's somebody in the public that would like to speak, they could come forward at this time. There's no one in the public to speak. We will close the public forum and move on to item number 1, discussion and action items. Discuss, consider, and act upon the regular meeting minutes for April 16, 2019.
Both sets of minutes are not in your packets, but you should have received an email with them in there.
I reviewed them, I did not make any changes.
Any questions? No. Can I get a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes for April 16, 2019?
Make a motion.
Motion made by member Bradford,
A second.
seconded by member Anthony. All those in favor? Passed unanimous. Move on to item number 2, discuss, consider, and act upon the regular meeting minutes for May 14, 2019. Any questions? Can I get a motion to accept the meeting minutes?
Motion.
Motion made by member Bradford,
I second.
seconded by member Anthony to approve the regular meeting minutes for May 14, 2019. All those in favor? Passed unanimous. Move on to item number 3, discuss, consider, and act upon the May 2019 financial reporting and related items.
Alright, so for the May financial reports, there were just standard payroll and contracting expenses, our maintenance agreements, and travel expenses related to conferences and other items that the ED director has attended. So no real items of note. We did have total revenues for the month of May of $87,911.86. We also did pay out a portion of the assigned funds for the Hope Development. I think we paid out, looks like half of that. So our total expenses for the month, including that, are $104,081.85, and our current unassigned fund balance is $2,932,613. I did not have any questions for staff on the May financials.
Any questions? Can I get a motion to accept the May 2019 financial reporting and related items? Motion made by member Eldridge, seconded by member Bradford. All those in favor? What? Well, you gave me the wink, so that's all.
Oh, okay,
That's all
we're
it
winking
took.
now.
The
Okay.
official link.
All those in favor? Passed unanimous. Move on to item number 4, discuss, consider, and act upon the recommended 2019-2020 budget.
So I'll defer to staff on this since they have some updates to some of the items in our previously proposed budget.
Yes, and I just want to make a notation. There were some changes that happened yesterday. So the current budget that we'll be reviewing are the one that are passed out on the dais rather than the one that was in your packet.
And just as a recap, some of the changes that you'll hear tonight were things that were mentioned during the first presentation of the proposed budget, things that we knew would be dependent on other budgets within the town, and then a couple of other changes as well. So
Okay, there were no changes to the revenue section. That remained the same as we had previously discussed. So you have current year, you have revenues for, proposed for 2019-20 at a total of $872,300. Jumping down to the expenses, one of the changes that you will see from your prior meeting is in the labor and benefits section under wages and salaries, TMRS, payroll taxes, and employee insurance. Those were adjusted to reflect a merit increase as well as to move the part-time administrative assistant, which was originally categorized in administrative services that we had budgeted at mid-year, that $10,000. We moved that money up into the wages and the benefits category since she has come on board to be reflected in that category for labor and benefits. The landscape maintenance contract remained the same. Your promotional services, we reduced that. I'm sorry, we did not reduce that. That is sitting at 10% of your sales tax receipts, which is $86,250. There was really no change from that than what you saw at your last meeting. Jobson Park maintenance, Vineyard Park maintenance, Town Center Park maintenance, Samuel North, New Hope maintenance. All of those budgets were moved for 1920 into a new category, a new line item identified as park maintenance. And we took those dollar amounts, which were running about $50,000, and we bumped them into that line item, 6926377 park maintenance, with a budget for next year, $75,000. That line item was also going to include some camera replacements that we were going to talk about at Town Center Park. General office supplies was increased to $3,000 for next year. That was mainly to cover new iPads for the board members, as well as maybe any additional supplies for the administrative assistant. Some of that is going to be incurred in this current year. And then there was a thought that for 1920, if there were some office supplies that are being purchased, like copy paper, ink, cartridges, that some of that might flow into the EDC's budget for their share of those supplies. Dues, subscriptions, and memberships, those were bumped up $1,000 for those items that are listed there in red: the Main Street America, Texas Downtown Association, SketchUp, and Scenic City application. The Parks Master Plan is listed there under the planning line item, and we gave that a budget for next year of $100,000. There were no changes to your professional legal services. Outside training expense, we actually reduced that $500 down from $7,500 to $7,000. That just includes the seminars, classes, certifications, EDC training, the certification that's required for the director to maintain her, qualifications. We added tape.
Is that still enough money?
It's split. Usually most of the classes, seminars, certifications that the director does is split between 4A and 4B. So you're looking at a total of about $14,000 between the two. I'm not sure. I'd have to defer to Tracy on. I'm not sure what tape is. That
It's a training that Susan was wanting to do with a couple of people for the town. For the life of me, I'm drawing a blank on what it is. I don't know that. It's kind of a organization, how to. I'll get back to you on that.
the public participation training, though, is
Something that is in there right now to be able to participate with the town on doing a training.
But even with the addition of those two items, the tape training and the public participation training, still felt like $7,000 would be sufficient in that category. Other miscellaneous expense, just going down the page here, that is a new account that we're setting up. 4A has the same account, 4B did not have it, and this is really to include, an item to include things like lunches, board dinners, you know, that type of purchases that it doesn't really relate to, you know, another line item that's currently budgeted. The transfers out to the general fund, that is support of the Parks Department budget at 33%. That did increase. We got what we'd like to consider a final number on the Parks budget, so that did jump up this year to $228,000. Incentives are the same, $500,000. The holiday town beautification for holiday directions, street banners, streetscapes remains the same at $25,000. Parks and trails, that was budgeted for current year at $150,000. Because we moved the Parks Master Plan into its own line item at $100,000, we reduced this line item to $50,000. Incentives that are assigned for the Hope
Well,
Development,
So the following year after that, it would go back up?
you can put it back up in there.
No.
Is that going to be enough if we are going to start connecting some of the trails?
Well, the 100,000 is paying for the
The actual plan.
the actual
master
plan, yeah, which you don't have to do every year.
But are we going to actually make any new trails next year?
That I do not know. I would imagine so. I won't be here.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. I mean, but you have Glacier on here separate,
Yeah, we do.
and you have the rails to trails separate. And those are
Right.
the two major ones right now. And then
Yeah.
We did bump up the Glacier Park improvements from 50,000 to 250,000, and that really is for the concept plan action items, once they complete that master plan. And then we bumped the Rails to Trails, Regional Rails to Trails project from 200,000 up to $750,000. So with these changes, you're looking at, we're proposing for 2019-20 revenues of $872,300, expenses of $2,167,960. That will take you into your fund balance for $1,295,660. So the proposed beginning, the very first page of this two-page document you have is kind of a fund summary for you, so you can kind of see where your fund sits. Of course, the beginning fund balance for 2019-20 we're showing to be $1,887,240. You can see by looking at your May financials that Treasurer Bradford just went over that your actual fund balance right now is unassigned $2,932,000. So that number will, you know, in all likelihood be much higher than the $1,887,000. However, for budget purposes, we have to go by what our amended budget shows we would be at if 100% of our expenses and 100% of our revenues were to be realized in the current year. So based on that, you would have an ending fund balance at the end of 19-20 of $591,580. Again, in all likelihood, that number will be much higher.
And just to clarify on the actual year-to-date column, these numbers appear to be quoted as of May 29th rather than May 31st,
Right.
but that doesn't impact the actual budget columns. That's just sort of a comparison.
This document will be presented at the council meeting Monday, June the 24th for the council to review.
so right now, is that accurate though? What you're saying, 3 million total fund budget balance?
That's where we're at. As of May the 31st, you have a total fund balance of $3,093,750. Of that is still assigned for the remaining portion of the incentive for Hope Development next door. Now, you do have some additional incentives that you have agreed to. Tracy has schedule that we put out, that we prepared. I think everybody has a copy of it. And that's just to give you an idea of that line item that is currently in your budget for incentives. That is sitting at $500,000, and we've kept that amount the same for next year for 2019-20. That's just to give you an idea of what you have approved to date.
So on the very last column, the proposed budget where it starts at 1.8 million, that will probably go up another million.
Yeah,
In all
substantially
likelihood,
more.
yeah. Unless, you know, something big comes to pass here in the next few months. So for your incentives, you currently have $93,750 still assigned for the Hope Development. And then of the $500,000 that you have budgeted for incentives, you have agreements for $37,500 of that money. And then there's an additional agreement that is a sales tax reimbursement for an amount not to exceed $53,333.
I'm trying to remember why we increased it so much.
We actually, you were questioning why we increased that 350,000.
Yeah.
We're actually moving money from one account, one budget line item to another. So we moved the land acquisition 300,000 and the Glacier Park 50,000. That 350,000, we just moved it to
Incentives.
incentives, just to park it for the rest of the year, not knowing what all we would get across our desk,
Right, okay.
and knowing
Yeah,
that
'cause
we
that's-
most likely would not be buying any land or doing any
Outside
out,
of other stuff.
any improvements before the start of the fiscal year.
I was trying to think, I'm like
This
500 seems
listing
like a
will-
large incentive.
This listing will just kind of give you an idea as you move from, you know, budget year, an idea of what you need to be budgeting each year for your incentives, you know, once after the Hope Development Project finishes.
So do we actually need to vote on this at this point, or does it?
It's gonna go before council on Monday, as she said, and then we have to adopt it next month. So if you would rather wait and see if council has any questions or anything, we can wait until next month to be able to adopt it.
All right. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to item number 5. Discuss. Thanks, Phyllis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was the same thing that was in our package. from the-
So we can just proceed then. No one has to leave. Sarah, do you need to leave?
No, I've changed my plans.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to item number 5. Discuss, consider, and act upon the economic development incentive guidelines and application.
So, have you all had a chance to review the incentive?
Of course, so every word that you said.
Thank you, Sarah, for updating that table of contents.
Did it work when it
It
came
did.
back to you? Okay, good.
Good.
I wasn't sure if maybe you were running a different version of Word than me or something, so.
I may
I
have
think it-
deleted something when I was doing.
No, actually what it was the comments. There was something, so whenever I cleared the comments out on my version,
Mhm.
and then I just hit update table. I mean, it took me 5 hours and it was very tedious to fix that table of contents.
Very good.
Like the update.
Right.
So, just going through this a little bit, under general purpose and objectives on page 3, there was a edit in this, and it took out the business retention part of the statement. So it now reads, the town of Sunnyvale is committed to the attraction and promotion of unique business development that will drive growth and facilitate job creation through a diverse local tax base. Period. So it took out the promotion of job retention as well. And so just wanted to ask for feedback on which way, or if there was a different way you'd like to say that just think it's
So is it really retention of job creation? That sounds like an odd
Yeah, it seems
phrasing to me.
redundant. I mean, to me, it's just redundant, because if you're creating jobs, you're keeping jobs, you know.
no, it's just job retention.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if that's one of our purposes, because I guess this is inclusive of 4A and 4B, right? It's just-
And 4B as well with, I mean, any of the manufacturing companies that have expanded, then you're essentially keeping the jobs that they. So maybe just to say the town of Sunnyvale is committed to the attraction and promotion of unique business.
And it, well,
Yeah, double.
or you could sound better instead of making it, is committed to attracting and promoting business development that will drive growth and facilitate job creation and retention through a diverse local tax.
There you go.
Or you can move to the next sentence and say, success in economic development ensures long-term job retention for Sunnyvale's long-term. Working in there, the second sentence.
Oh yeah, actually, I kind of like that idea better, because the second sentence is talking about sort of the result of us doing our due diligence on the front end. And my screen just went away, so I don't know what I was about to say.
I like that idea.
Which one?
Shoot, this stupid thing.
Both, but
Yeah, I mean, I
changing
agree,
the
it
first
needs to be in there,
to
so I
attracting
guess
and
just find the
promoting,
most
and then add the
grammatically
retention to the second
Mhm.
sentence.
correct and well-flowing way to, thank you, to fit it in there, but like, where it says success in economic development ensures Sunnyvale's long-term financial ability to provide continued quality services. I don't know, this probably sounds horrible, and updated infrastructure, but just find a place to put it in there, I guess.
Or do we just say what Eric said, the town of
Yeah,
Sunnyvale
that
is
sounds,
committed
probably sounds better.
to attracting and promoting development that will drive growth and facilitate job creation?
I'm fine with that, it just makes it sound like that our sole purpose is job creation. Is it really?
Well, it's part of the incentive to, I mean, they're getting money for,
Yeah, that's
not
what-
just for hanging out.
Right, but there could be a quality business that brings, you know, money to taxes and value to the town, to the community, but might not necessarily have a lot of jobs associated
Well, I
with
mean,
it.
that's
Yeah.
refrigeration plant, you know, or
Yeah.
if Sunnyvale actually showed up on the alignment for a data center, they don't employ many people.
Right,
Think
yeah.
Or
they
what
want
about
that.
the way it was, that was, is,
I
Vice
had
versa.
said it before,
Households.
where it says that Sunnyvale that meets the
Jobs.
needs and desires of the residents throughout the community, that's addressing that it's not just about job retention and creation, it's also about providing amenities to the citizens.
Grow and diversify the tax base.
Be all things to all people.
Mhm.
Mr. Eldridge, thoughts?
I go either way.
Yeah. Same.
Going back to the way it was or doing,
I mean, I think the way Eric said it's fine with me. I just worry there's too many ands, too many conjunctions in the first sentence.
Mhm.
The run-on sentence. But I'm a blue book person, so.
Oh, causing bullets in there,
Yeah.
because I'm a bullet person.
You're bulletized?
Yeah. Every paragraph can be turned. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of those
Nope.
suggestions.
I do think it should say something about providing amenities for the citizens.
Bill is committed to attracting and promoting development that will drive growth and facilitate job creation and retain.
I have a completely different suggestion,
Oh,
just to throw
it's
things,
almost
just
like a
to
separate
completely,
Mhm.
throw everybody for a loop. What if we just said, the town of Sunnyvale is committed to the attraction and promotion of unique business development, period. This includes,
Job.
job creation and retention, you know, some of the other key things we've been talking about in this sentence that was deleted. And just kind of list them out, maybe in the second sentence or something, I don't know. Actually, the town of Sunnyvale is committed to the attraction and, actually, I like, Eric's suggestion about committed to attracting and promoting unique business
Said
community,
period.
or just add one other thing there, but then kind of list the elements that,
I'm just trying to think, I know what what would be the right word for what Nikki's describing?
I'm working on something.
A list of
Yeah, I'm kind of taking.
cool
life
things that we'd all
serious.
like to use and spend our money at, you know.
So what if it said, the town of Sunnyvale is committed to attracting and promoting unique business development. This includes businesses that will provide amenities that meet the needs and desires of the residents of the town, as well as drive growth and facilitate job creation and retention through a diverse local tax base.
Sounds
Good job.
material right there.
Put a colon and
I
some
have to
bullets
remember what I
in
just
there.
said.
What you
yeah, if we could turn that into a bullet list, I would be completely sold.
That's what I know. Right after unique business development, put a colon and then,
Including but not limited to, colon and then
Mhm.
bullets. I mean, I can see it, but no.
I know that's,
Those are the kind of things that give me joy, and that's sad. No, Nikki,
want
I
me to
think
write that out?
that sounded good, Nikki.
Yeah, I'll try to write that out in a legible form.
The second part under methodology, the couple of questions about the incentivized may be utilized only as inducements to generate development that otherwise would not occur. Incentives will not be considered if a building permit for new construction has already been issued. The purchase of an existing building has been finalized or a tenant lease has been executed. Couple of questions on, can we really say everything that's there, because of some of the agreements that have been made, and asking about matching grants being given after the fact. This paragraph makes it sound like everything must be submitted before the work is done. So technically, in order to give an incentive, you should do it on the front end before anything has been done, because otherwise, why would you give an incentive for them to be here? So that's what this is stating, is
Then it
for
would be
us
a
to
grant.
go how we should
True.
really be doing that. But it doesn't mean that we can't do it. It's still on a case-by-case basis, can look at it if there's factors that we can say this would justify going ahead and giving it to them, we can still do it.
I think the end user would need to also kind of demonstrate that if the town doesn't give me, so for example, if someone had already started building or had started the project or whatever, then, and they were asking for an incentive maybe towards an unexpected expense or something like that, I think they would probably need to add some color around, if I don't get this help from the town, then I'm not gonna be able to do X, Y, and Z. It shouldn't be a matter of just give me some money towards something. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I agree with that, but yeah, it would, and existing agreements that we've already done obviously wouldn't be.
Could add something, unforeseen circumstances or something, the word can be reviewed.
Well, I mean, you could just reference the section that talks about how it will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis and just, say something along the lines of, I don't even know where that is.
it's right below it.
Is it under targeted incentives or exceptions? Maybe exceptions.
Says it in the paragraph up above it, the town may.
I mean, I don't know if you have to keep repeating that as long as it's referenced.
So I just want to make sure that everybody was comfortable with that, because there were some questions about that, a couple of questions. That's how incentives are typically given. They haven't come to the town, but for the incentive, they wouldn't be able to come to the community.
Or they wouldn't be able to offer a service in a certain way.
Are we okay with that then? Okay. There was a question about adding NAICS codes, so added the NAICS codes. So on page 7, there were a couple of questions about fast track town services and if we had fast track services. So we have decided,
And fast track on page 7.
Yeah. Where?
Six.
6? Oh, there it is.
That doesn't really have anything to do with us, because we can't,
Yeah.
HOA meeting for tomorrow night.
we can't grant that.
So fast track services,
It's on
felt more
page 6.
comfortable after talking with a couple that we just removed that item altogether.
Doesn't have anything to do with us, really, so.
It's nice to say a lot of developers want to see that you have a fast track service, but
That's, to me, a topic outside of the incentive thing, so.
Mhm.
Like I said, if it
Out of
doesn't need to
scope.
be here, it doesn't need to be here.
Out of scope.
Yeah.
okay, so that's deleted. We have,
Wait, do you want 2 different fonts on that page?
Good
Job
point.
creation has a different font.
Different
on
font
there.
than everything
Mhm.
else. It's bolded.
It's sans serif. The rest of it is a serif.
I don't know those names.
It doesn't
Unless
have
I'm
little
on the
line
computer
font.
and going,
Yeah, selected.
why did this change to this?
okay, I'll change that type stuff. On page 9, there was a question about the ROI of being 10 to 1. Are we really saying here that incentive would not be larger than 10% investment made by the requesting party?
Where is that?
So it's under targeted incentives, the last paragraph under A. Should be the top of page 9,
Mhm.
what I'm looking at.
So what is the suggested replacement for that?
Targeted incentives.
And what is the suggested edit, I guess I should say?
It's on page 6.
So it could just say, it's saying that it shall be limited by an ROI.
It's on
So
page 7.
Page 9.
Page 7.
Whichever page that you have that you're looking at.
We're following your lead. You tell us 9, we're looking at 9.
Well, that's what I have, that's what Sarah and Mark have, so if you're looking at a different version.
Oh.
This is right out of what you emailed me, so.
Maybe different on the actual one. Oh yeah, it is 7 on the packet.
7 on the packet. It's saying that it shall be limited by an ROI, so I guess the question was, should it not be shall be limited by an ROI? Because obviously if the ROI is 20 to 1, we don't want to limit it to a 10.
Could put
Would it-
minimum ROI of 10 to 1. That implies that we want at least $10 back for every dollar we spend. So if it's 20.
That's fun.
And there's something in here later that basically says that the town can do whatever they want
Yeah, that's
that's
under
different than this.
That's
It's their
under-
situation.
Correct.
section 8 on page 8.
Which 8?
You sure it's on page 8?
Exceptions.
There, I don't know 9 now, or if this is page 11, but under where it says just right above consideration of the application, the italicized that was in red.
Mhm.
Page 9.
That's not
Figure
right.
we're 2 pages behind. So the question was, do we need to mention that a CO is required for certain grants to be funded? And so I changed some of the wording in there to reflect that. Actually, that comment is for the consideration of application grant funding. So you'll see where I inserted or upon issuance of certificate of occupancy. Through all the comments, questions that were provided. Other than that, you see the corrections that were made. Been to any further discussion, comments, questions, suggestions? Several of you responded back for comments, so I appreciate everybody's feedback. I did incorporate everybody's comments, feedback into the document.
On the 10-to-1 ROI, is that sales tax revenue or what?
It's for specialty retail, just showing that anything that we do with it would be a 10-to-1 return on investment, so whether that be
Right, well, I'm
cash
just saying it
grant.
says to the town, so is that, I mean,
How do you calculate
effectively,
that metric? Like
is that effectively sales tax? Cause,
hard cash or just
What?
perceived value?
Whether it be a cash grant or sales tax rebate, it's just saying that the ROI needs to be a 10-to-1. So in that document.
right, but
that
that's
we
what I'm
did-
trying to figure out, how does the town get the 10, what's the 10?
So on the calculation, the application that we do, that the one-sheeter review, it shows down at the bottom what the return on investment is.
Okay. So it's, could be multiple things.
Mhm.
I was just thinking, cause this was started before the property tax limitations and that kind of stuff, so I didn't know if this, okay, obviously if they're leasing, they're not paying property tax, but but if it's part of the other formula, I get it.
I had also asked about, on page 9 in the packet version, 11 in your version, I think, above consideration of the application. You know, in that recent meeting, they said that if the applicant receives any money from the town, then that becomes public record as well, and they can be asked to provide documentation of how they spent the money. I don't know if we need to have.
I added that in there,
Is that in there?
so the last sentence, any public or private entity that spends or that is supported in whole or in part by public funds is also subject to open records.
Okay.
So, sorry, back to the ROI real quick. Is that, do we need to state that that's over a certain period, or do we already do that?
That will be addressed in the performance agreement, however long we determine. So, I mean, it could be that they are such a high, like, for example, a couple of the agreements that we just did, they had a 26-day return on investment, that was 40-1. Then you had another one that was over a 3-year period that was 30-1. So it just kind of depends on what company it is. Any other questions, feedback? If you're comfortable with this, I would like to have a motion for approval with the additional edits.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Town of Sunnyvale incentive policy for economic development with the suggested edits.
Motion made by member Bradford, seconded by member Weiss. All those in favor to accept the economic development incentive guidelines and application with the changes that are presented. All those in favor? Passed unanimous. Move on to item number 6, discuss and consider future parks and trails.
So Javier, this one was at your request.
Yep. So, if we look at the big, the one with all the dotted lines, that comes from our
Parks Master Plan.
park master plan, and just from a quick overview.
You mean this one?
Yeah, the big one.
He updated this recently.
Well, it's not well updated, but if it's
But
it's
he made
updated,
some changes to it.
yeah. I guess the reason I wanted to bring it up is that
Rashad did.
we,
Oh,
And this incorporates his changes.
yeah.
Yes, it does.
Which one? This
The one that you have on the dais does have incorporated the updated trails.
And it's not set in stone. This was just, I was in a meeting with Rashad was in, and he was like, just based on what I'm looking at, I made.
I mean, it's missing the forest trail back here. It's not on there. It's missing a lot of stuff, but that's not the reason I wanted to bring it up. The reason I wanted to bring it up, well, one, we need to update it correctly. And two, I think we missed the boat on quite a few of these that no longer are, like in Tanner Creek up here in the upper right-hand corner, that neighborhood's kind of fully built out now. The way that's drawn is no longer possible. There's a couple of them that I can see that we missed the boat. And the falls, well,
The falls is a path going straight through all the way now.
yeah, it's not.
It's not the way it is now.
It's
like
not
you
the
see
way
it
it's
now.
drawn here.
Yeah.
So, is there a process by where when housing developers come here, that they look at this map and they decide where to put the trails? Because the one for Stony Creek, this other one, it's fantastic and it fits what we had said in the master trail park. That's gonna happen, right?
Can I see that one?
Yeah. So I don't know if the Stony Creek folks, developer, looked at our master plan and said, "Oh yeah, we'll build that for you because that's part of the you approving all these houses. We'll build that corridor." But it just seems that in other places that hasn't happened. Like in this, I don't know what it's called, Tanner Creek housing development up there in the upper left-hand
Right.
side of the map, that didn't happen there. So one, maybe we can figure out if there's a process we can have that whenever we approve housing developments, and maybe it has happened because like the ones for, what is this called, Homestead? Well, the-
yeah.
all those, they are building and continuing the trails, and they kind of map to what this map is.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to, see if there's a process in place. And I
Well, I
guess,
don't want to speak fully for development services, but I do know that whenever they're looking at developments and they're going through the plans, they do refer.
but are they tied to, they have to do, like,
Which one do you want to know?
heck, the falls, right?
Very visual.
They did it different than what this is, so I guess they're not tied to what this says.
I'm assuming that's a bridge.
You know, I don't,
That would be,
Private.
that would be where the town just definitely has to keep up with this and clarify
So-
that to a home builder.
You know, one thing like along Trip Road, it's not shown on here as a trail, but they're requiring from Robin Ridge over to the school campus, those 9 lots that face Trip, they're requiring them to put a sidewalk along Trip.
Well, and I thought there was supposed to be a trail between the school and that development?
That's the one they're doing that's connecting just there to there, and then internal to this development, which isn't even shown on here right now, they have connecting trails that have already been built.
Right.
Well,
So-
this one
Sidewalks.
going right through the school district, that, to your point, that
Well,
needs to be
I
changed.
thought the developer was tied to building that, and they put money in a escrow account, and the same thing with the tunnel under Collins that is shown right here.
Right.
Where's that money at? And can we tap it to actually do these projects?
That one's supposed, I'd have to go back and revisit, and we'd have to revisit, but supposedly that money was earmarked, and we were gonna be able to use it as part of the matching funds for rails trails. So
So it's
when you
there.
look at the overall application for the last time we filed, it included
The tunnel?
the tunnel, because then you were able to take that escrowed money and then get it matched substantially more, so you could use it for other things.
But why didn't they
For
build
that
it out
as
of
well as
the,
the-
I mean, I would rather them build it and do it. Was it because of the expansion in Collins? We're
Right.
like, we don't want to tear it down.
That's what it originally was.
Right.
I just think whatever they funded in that escrow, it's not gonna be enough by the time we build a tunnel there.
Right, it'll probably double by the time.
Double, triple, who knows, right? By the time we get,
But that is why they didn't do it, is because they know that Collins are gonna come through there and they'll just tear half of it up for sure.
see, that makes sense, I guess, but the one, between the school district and whatever that new neighborhood is, and the east side of the school district, by where you live, Sarah?
Well,
That
That's-
also went to
that's gonna be
escrow, and I
rails.
have no idea
That's gonna
why.
be Rails to Trails right there.
You're
Going
saying
north.
this-
Going north, yeah.
Going
Yeah.
north.
But the one going straight through the middle of the school district, that
Well,
doesn't
this one that
exist.
goes straight through the middle of the
Is that Raider
development,
Drive?
and then where it has that circle,
Mm-hmm.
that's around a private citizen's lake that he owns.
Yeah. well,
And
that's
he
not
owns
bad.
90-something acres over here, and this is part of the original
Is that the
PD.
Vander?
Yeah, but that's part of the original PD of Stony Creek, but there's obviously multiple developers and people that have
Well-
gone bankrupt, and it's changed hands many times, so.
Well, and to that point, a lot of these are in private land, like the owners haven't agreed to this, and like there's
so
there's
that's where you
power
have to-
lines that are missing here that I think those should be the ones that should
This
be
goes
drawn
around
here
Paul's
instead
Lake.
of the
And we need to focus on the ones that have the most value to the citizens.
value
back there
and
anyway.
that are realistic. I mean,
Yeah.
if I own that land,
That's
by golly, I'm not
part
going to
of
let
the
you build a
plan.
trail
Master
around my lake.
plan.
Well, and who benefits
But he
from
doesn't
getting a
have to
trail
do
that
it.
goes into someone else's 90 acres of land in their pond? Like,
Right. That's just
That
a
too,
waste
I
of
mean,
because there's
yeah.
no one over there. I mean, think about
That's
there's
part of
a
the-
few citizens over there.
But there's already lots planned
Oh, is there on the south
from
side of
the
it? Mm-hmm.
original development, original PD,
So,
Gotcha.
but that doesn't mean those are ever gonna happen. And
Yeah, that
they
would
may,
be
they
a
may
long
not,
time
you know,
ago.
depends
I
on
gotcha.
what he,
If he ever sells it, or
whoever
yeah.
owns it at any point in time wants to do with it.
Yeah, I think we agree this needs to be updated, but isn't that part of the Parks Master
It'll be
Plan?
part of the Parks Master
That
so
we're
whoever
gonna
we
pay for?
paid to do this, they need to walk this stuff because I mean, there's some stuff obvious that to me, whoever did this didn't even look at Google Maps because you can see clearly.
Well, the last time it was like done brand new.
Maybe they
I mean,
didn't
it was
have
10
Google
years
Maps.
ago, right? And then we just sort of rubber stamped it 5 years ago. So.
And a lot of it
lots
is
changed since
long-term planning based on desires of what you would like to see.
then. Yeah.
Well,
Doesn't
but if
mean
they're
it's-
building houses, right, we should have at least some leverage to say, look, you're building here, we're letting you build these lots. This is the master trail plan, you need to incorporate this trail or
Alright.
something that
You
connects
think about where
things
the most
similarly
where
in
citizens
this
are.
way.
Right here.
And this
Or
one,
else-
will-
Or else you don't get
Or
approved.
else 25 years down the road, all these trails have disappeared because
Right.
houses have been built.
this one that's down here that comes towards your, that's on that underground
water
water
line.
line
Yeah.
easement.
Which it's fine, that's gonna be a bit,
totally, yeah.
that's what I mean, like the power lines,
Yeah.
the water line
Yeah.
easements, those are not going
Doing
anywhere.
that.
Right.
Those should be drawn
I'm saying
in
in terms
this.
of-
Yeah, we've just got to get
Most
away
Right.
from people to
Yeah.
get over
So
to
that,
Master Trails.
you know,
We have a trailhead
if-
So you can
somewhere over
tell.
here, but we don't need all these
Yeah.
feeder.
Like, I don't know what this, in the Lupton farm, this squiggly on both sides, I assume that's I don't know,
I think his pen slipped when he was
a
drawing
creek
it.
or something?
That's what it looks
It's
like.
probably a large drainage easement,
Yeah, makes sense.
a large,
Each side of it.
large one, not a small one,
Well, and didn't
probably.
That, yeah,
Mark
because
bring
there's a
up
big
before
pond right there.
doing identifying places where we would be responsible for building and then,
Versus,
you know,
yeah,
every year kind of
Well, and like up
adding
here where
to-
you're talking about Lupton, you know, they're proposing to develop that whole thing, so
so the time is now to,
What's that?
to be able to influence at least some connectivity
Right.
for the trails, like east to west, you don't see a lot of connectivity here. Like if I live there in Lupton and I wanna get to the lake on a bike in the future, there's no, I have to go up to Barnes Bridge and snake around, maybe that's on purpose, I don't know, but we're gonna expand Town East at some point, it'll be great to have a trail east to west. We're expanding Collins now, and all this east to west connectivity between there, tunnels would be ideal, right? But I'm pretty sure we're not doing any tunnels, connecting, like right out of here at Town Hall to connect to the east of us. Is there a tunnel gonna be built when Collins gets expanded? I assume the answer is no.
or from the school.
Or from the school to, well, that's the one that we
Yeah, the
were
one
supposed
up
to
here is supposed
have
to-
in escrow, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, just a more, update this, make sure it's accurate, add the power lines, add any other easements that we've missed. But also, I don't know, whoever approves the housing developments, take this into consideration and I don't want to say force developers.
They are required now, you know, if you're developing over a certain amount of lots and stuff, you have to incorporate certain levels of green space and trails, but that's where I agree with you, if you're able to work with them to incorporate the ones that,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if, did
Benefit
somebody work with Stony
more
Creek on
people than-
this? Because, I mean, I came to the session
did.
where they talked about it, but it was almost a done deal, and, I mean, I think it's great that they did this, and the gazebo thing, structure that's supposed to be on Town East, and,
But
there's
even
supposed to be
more, I
a
mean,
nature park.
My section of it, they developed the trails really well. It seems to be a big part of their planning process
for
already.
those developers in Stony Creek, or?
Mhm,
Depends
yeah.
on the
We've got the
developer.
trail that goes around the lake and then, so I don't know.
And I mean, there's like, I don't know what this one, between Samuel Farm and Town Center Park, that green trail there.
Yeah, that's a neighborhood.
That
Those
says post
Those are
all
roads, I
over
guess,
the
I think.
entries that this is a private trail.
Which one?
So, between Samuel Farm and Town Center Park,
Meadow, yeah, what's that called? That-
where Meadow Lane is there, east to west.
Oh, yeah.
That whole
Alpha Highway
green
80.
drawing should be
Blue.
blue if we're gonna follow the no trespassing sign. So, I mean, some neighborhoods seems to embrace the trails and make it a selling point, others haven't, so do we even put it in here as a trail? 'Cause if, I'm not allowed, because I don't live there. You know, should it be shown here? But for new ones, I think they should all be public and they should all be, have, either we have input or the town staff have, look at their master trail plan and make sure those trails happen or funded via escrow if it doesn't make sense to do them when the housing, when that's built, when the houses are built. And last but not least, the tunnels on Collins and tunnels on 80, that's being expanded, as we all know. And
80, we're planning a bridge. So.
yeah, but there's a power line south of that private trail, Meadow, whatever neighborhood. If you look at the red line next to Town Center Park, that red line's a power easement,
Right.
and it goes all the way down to Riverstone on the other side of 80. Wouldn't it be nice to also have a connection there, either a tunnel or another bridge? Granted, the priority, I agree, should be on the Rails to Trail bridge, but are we too late to even suggest a tunnel there from TxDOT? So bottom line, just planning ahead so that we can at least, these things take a long time, and so that we don't miss the boat going forward on some of these. It's nice to have all these dotted red lines, but it's just, I've been here almost 10 years and there's very few that have turned from dotted red to green.
One thing I think, Samuel Farm, I know everybody wants to hold off until something happens, but it would be real easy to just go out there and mow some paths.
I thought we talked about that beginning
Because
of the
it
year,
was,
didn't we?
yeah, I mean, it would be super simple to just put in some mowed nature paths that we pay to maintain, just mowing them like,
The Parks Department said they're gonna
Happened
do
in
it too
other-
over their downtime over Christmas or the holidays. That's what they said.
yeah,
I don't know if they did
you
or
have
not.
better memory than me on that one, but that, people continue to ask about it, and I think that'd be kind of a no-brainer, low cost,
Mhm.
potential decent impact.
If you'll remember about the Samuel Farms, we've kind of been put on hold with things with them in our
Right.
areas.
But we're allowed to go out there and,
No,
Or mowing it
what
now.
they're saying is just really mowing it lower, kind of lower, so
Oh,
you
no,
can
just
tell
scalping it.
it's actually a
8 foot.
path.
8 foot wide, 10 foot
Not
wide,
just-
just scalp it off.
Scalp.
Yeah, scalp it basically, making it look like a path and not doing anything else.
And I can show you on the map
Within
other
the-
communities that do that, and it's just considered a nature trail.
Within the property itself, like where this red line is?
Right.
Mhm.
Yep. Or, I mean, you'd have to go out there and see where trees are, because I mean, if you don't have to cut trees down, you're better off, so just wind it around.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I know I mentioned in the past when I first joined the 4B that if you're a runner or you have bad knees,
Yeah, native trails.
you rather run on, like, even though there's all this, some trails here, when I run on the grass.
Mm-hmm.
So having, at least that's a low cost
Right.
trail expansion right there for folks that don't want to be running on the concrete. And a lot of people use that park. You drive up there in the
Mhm.
morning and people are walking.
Well, and there's that parking area out in the middle of it that, I don't know what it's for, but off of 80 where you.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh.
for the flying,
Flying
when they flew
planes used to
the
go.
model
But if you
plane.
mowed a path and you had a
Mhm.
path that just crossed over that
Mm-hmm.
little parking lot and then went on out. I know up in, again, Richardson, they do it in Breckenridge Park, and they only have to mow it like once a month, you know, it's not, they don't mow it often, it's just, but when they do, and then the rest of it, they leave, and then they mow it on, or they bale it on a regular basis.
So I know 190 is a ways from being a reality, or I hope. It's right in front of my house, but I think the time would be now to figure out some trails to go along with that, like they did up in Garland and not Garland, Grand Prairie. They have some beautiful trails right next to 190 or whatever it's called over there. Just don't want to miss the boat on that either. You know, I don't know if it's too late for 80 for us to do anything or not, but just the bottom line, we need to get together with whoever and get familiarized and fix this master plan, and then incorporate the plan into our future roads and future housing developments.
So the first step is to what? Get the master plan renewed, updated.
Yeah.
We got
So
the
how
funds
does
for it,
that
right?
work? Will they
Well, yeah, we
have
have to do
people
that.
from
So
Yeah.
part of that will
4B
be
consult on
updated.
the master plan?
When's that gonna happen?
I'm sorry,
Well,
Nick, you
she's
said?
been
And how does that
getting
work
quotes
when they
and
do the
bids.
master plan? Will they have like someone like who's they?
I would love to
Yeah, I mean,
volunteer.
we'll
and
provide input, they'll always ask for input on it.
Nobody's ever asked me
They're
for input. I've
supposed
given.
to be able to go through, look at different plans, go out there, and kind of incorporate all that together. So how badly this one was done last time has kind of been a question, because
But it
had
seems
to
like it
update
would be
some stuff.
Good to have citizen input, people who actually run.
And they'll do
trails
the citizen forums, just like they did in the last one. They'll have all the forums and public input. But I mean, I would take it a step further and
This is
see
different
if
than the one that's in-
maybe you want to do, put together a trails subcommittee, and we can sit and kind of go over the trails now and get ahead of that. And that way we can provide that input and documentation to show whatever we need to show during that process.
I think that's a great idea.
Would anybody want to be on that?
Pretty
There you
much
go.
all of us, I would think.
There you go.
Well, and at least someone in the 4B that knows exactly where all of this stuff is. You know, I don't know where everything is, but I know where a lot of it is. So if they have members from different places that can provide input, and then we all can learn from each other and figure out what's best usability wise and
So
long term.
anybody else besides Javier?
Oh, this guy.
Oh, okay.
This guy, this guy next to me.
This guy.
Yo guy.
I have a friend who walks all over the Homestead area, if you ever need input on that. She's a huge walker.
What would be ideal is if your committee was made up of like one representative from each of the neighborhoods or something. So tell your friend you're volunteering.
I will tell her.
I'd walked all of those way back when I used to have more stamina, and they did it well. And it looks like they've expanded some.
Yeah, she knows all of that area really well. I don't know where else she goes, but she does it every day.
On here.
Yeah, to start, we need to add a whole bunch of more streets on here too.
Yeah.
Because there are streets
Well, again, this
missing
is-
all over the place.
Yeah, this is an old
Mhm.
overlay, and then it's been edited as well. So.
Anything else on this topic?
Not for me.
Future parks and trails. Well, for future parks, there's, again, it was the same topic, but there isn't one marked up there where we took control of the lakefront. The rail spur doesn't go all the way to Barnes Bridge, but so I mean, I guess it's all still part of the same topic.
Yeah, on mine I drew it. It's like it should
Right.
go all the way up and east to that, whatever we call that park, the Needle Park. Needle.
Needle Park.
So, in all honesty, that green asterisk up there should probably move to that park. Because that green asterisk is Dr. I forget his last name. His house.
Somebody's yard, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the other thing that could be incorporated on here if we want to, which we've talked about before, would be bike trails. So as these roads are improved, there's grant funding to add bike trails.
On the side.
Right. So if you add an extra 4 feet, you can get money to help compensate for that.
With the striping and all that too.
For the
Or
roundabout,
for existing roads, if
I know did the public's thing when you speak on the town council meeting, and I mentioned, is there going to be bike or walk sidewalks in the roundabout? Did any of that incorporated? I assume no, because they didn't seem to.
As far as I know, no. I haven't seen
I don't
anything.
know about the roundabout, but there's supposed to be sidewalks along Collins.
Yeah, but not bike.
Yeah, they said it would complicate the design quite a bit to have a bike lane for a roundabout, and it'll make it even more confusing. And people are like, "Don't make it more confusing."
Well, and I think Collins as a whole did not get a bike lane added to it.
No.
I suppose you get.
But you said we are getting sidewalks, so that red line from Michael Street down to Town Hall, there is gonna be a sidewalk. Awesome.
Yeah, do sidewalks count as a trail? Are we referring to sidewalks as trails?
Well, like from where it's green
they
there
are.
in front of the school, that's a trail. I mean that's wide. It's not like a
Yeah.
3-foot sidewalk.
Difference between a residential 3 foot and a whatever the minimum is, 6 or,
6 or 8. Yeah.
and then for ours, for the grant, ours has to be 8.
So yeah, is it a sidewalk or is it a how wide?
Well, normally you wouldn't say sidewalks here, so I'm assuming it's a trail, but I don't know how wide it is.
Okay.
I
Well,
can find out though.
And they did that
Paved
after they
walking
moved the telephone poles and everything. So they're definitely behind the poles, knowing that Collins was going to get widened at some point.
It's 50. Vineyard Park. Good points,
Anything else?
Javier.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
Oh, one last thing. Sorry. Up there in the upper left-hand green asterisk, to the left of the red dotted line, that whole driveway that you see there, that's all squiggly coming down, that land is for sale. So right now, and it's been for sale in a while. That's the lady that has all the cedars, I think.
Oh yeah.
So that trail from Barnes Bridge down to Town East, maybe not all the way to Town East, but right now would be the opportunity to, I don't know, if acquire or if a developer buys that, to say, okay, you need to build that trail, right? And since it's for sale, I don't know if there's anything we can do. If I don't know, they've been trying to sell it for a while. They have a lot of cedars there, right? So they couldn't cut them before, and it's not big enough for a developer to come in there. So if there was any appetite for us to,
Is that the one with the 2 old ranch houses? I'm in the party house. And the,
yeah, there's like
Yeah.
3 or
Well, I looked at that when I first moved to Sunnyvale, and it sold for a heck of a lot less than they're asking for it now. So
well, I don't know if they'll be open to selling some of that for a trail,
Yeah.
but because I don't think housing development is going to come in through there. But if an Eric comes in and buys it for whatever they're buying, and then they build a house, you for sure as heck not going to get a trail there.
Are you talking about this one right here?
The white squiggly.
Yeah, the squiggly line to the left.
This one?
Yeah, that whole lot is the one I'm talking
I
about.
don't remember how many acres it was. It's
It was 60 something. It
Yeah.
was right below whatever the developers like to have, and they had too many thick trees to actually cut. So anyway,
those aren't cedars; they're trash jumpers. But I guess.
whatever.
Yeah, but at the
They're
time,
cedars.
the problem was that we were gonna do something with Samuel North and
Yeah.
cut trees down, and boy, when she read that, she was like, wait a minute, you told me I can't cut these trees
Oh, okay.
down, and you're gonna do it
Oh,
at
that's-
Samuel North, and so that, it started a big thing
So
at the time, but that's.
Well, there was a guy
quite
in
few.
Florida who just bought a piece of property at auction and found out it was just a little strip in between two townhomes. Did y'all read about that? We could just go in and buy that.
Well, that's what I'm
Right.
saying. Like maybe they would be open to selling
Yeah.
the strip there if we're serious about keeping that north to
Stony
south
Creek
trail.
folks haven't had any problem clear cutting everything in sight. So
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
So,
do we
in the
need that
reserve
park?
or over here.
yeah, or to move the park to the left of where it is right
Mm-hmm.
now and put it on that property. But I honestly don't know how much she's asking for it, and or if she'd be willing to sell just enough to put that trail.
Park.
Anyway, if a single person buys it to build their home, we're not gonna get that land for a trail ever.
Unless they're trail
There's
friends.
a lot of people don't even know that it even exists. You know, a lot of people don't go down Blanks Bridge at all.
It's beautiful. You should fish on a bike.
I'm not riding my bike down that road. I'll get killed.
It's scary and dark.
Okay.
That's it.
All
Sorry.
right. All right. Move on to item number 7. Discuss and consider an update on Vineyard Park survey and field lighting.
So just real quick, we have, so the survey and topo are done. We have all equipment that is sitting at Clark Electric's warehouse right now. We have met with Clark Electric to go over preliminary plans. And they're supposed to be submitting the formal site plans to the town to get the lights put up. So still waiting on the preliminary or the official site plans to come back to the town for approval, and then we will have lights.
If we put the lights up, will it affect like future drainage?
No, we've got them out of the way.
Okay.
Where they're located, it won't affect what we would do with drainage.
Because that's
They're
another
supposed to be
project.
really tall.
No, I'm talking about when we dig the holes and figure out where drainage pipes need to go.
It was taken into consideration whenever we were looking at the position of the lights.
All right.
Cool.
Any other questions?
Yay, we got something done.
Yeah.
Move on to item number
It
8.
took us 3 years to get lights. I was trying to think when I got that email about that. Was that 3 years ago?
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating much.
Discuss and consider an update on the Glacier property master plan. Sorry.
Yeah, so that whole fast track thing, you can start looking
Is your wife in on
at.
with you?
Mhm.
EPA.
So the Glacier Committee met on May 31st, and we went over what participants said at the open house to see how we can incorporate some of the things that were suggested during the open house to incorporate into our preliminary master plan. They're hoping to have the preliminary done by the end of the month, and so in July, we will call a special meeting between the boards and council to go over the preliminary plan for any feedback and input so that they can move forward with the master plan. Hopefully be done with this in the next 2 to 3 months.
Good.
Very good.
So Glacier made me think about it, but I should have brought it up on the future Parks and Trails plan. But I got the announcement today from Texas Parks and Wildlife about the millions of dollars of grant money that they handed out recently, or are dispensing. And I thought I thought our Parks Department was applying for some. Maybe I misunderstood. But like Glacier, since we have no plan for it, we can't really apply for the grants. There's specific grant money that Glazier could have qualified for under 2 years of purchase of it to reimburse for the purchase of the
Purchase
property.
land.
But since we've dorked around for so long with arguments over what's gonna happen with it, you know, we've missed out on that opportunity. The same thing will apply when we move forward with purchasing the rail spur. We'll be able to actually retroactively apply for Texas Parks and Wildlife grants to potentially get some of that money reimbursed in a matching grant program. But Texas Parks and Wildlife's grants are opening up for 2019 applications, and so if we do decide we want to do anything with other connecting trails, as you mentioned, and we get that into our master trail plan, we can apply for the small things that we can afford to do along the way that aren't overly expensive, 50,000 here, 100 grand here, to start putting together the connectivity plan, as well as pocket parks, or, you know, augmenting things that developers are doing, like the nature park. You know, they had to earmark a certain amount of money, but that was earmarked and set, the dollar amount set 15 years ago or whatever, so we can potentially work with them and then apply for this type of stuff. But I can pass these around out if you just want to see what the different types of programs. There's 3 different programs, and there's a little over 20 million in grant money that they did, and it lists the awardees and the towns and what their projects are. So it's pretty interesting because it, to me, helps me think about the stuff that we might be able to do and qualify for that we may or may not have thought about already.
So are you saying there's nothing that we can use?
No,
Still-
there's
we still
not.
might.
But you know, when did we buy that? Been
Last year, post on it?
What,
longer than
Glazier?
that.
Yeah.
No,
So-
right when I came on board, so it was late July, early August of 2017.
So almost 2
Yeah,
years.
so once you're over the 2-year mark, but unless the rules have changed, it was 2 years on purchase. But
But it could qualify under some of the connectivity.
Correct.
Gotcha.
as well as other things. So there's stuff in here for wildlife, there's stuff in here for trails, there's stuff in here for nature trails, there's stuff in here for paved trails, there's bike things, there's
If we keep the
Hike
horses,
things,
does that
there's-
count as wildlife?
I don't think so.
But, you know, again, those are all the things that we should be looking at. And for me, back in the budget for training, it makes sense even for potentially some of us to get properly trained on grant writing. You know, I mean,
Yeah, I agree with that. That would be helpful.
Well, they
So-
have so I did the
They have a
TML
workshop.
grant training workshop, and TML, they just had one a couple months ago. Our town engineer went to that one. I have Brittany, the new executive assistant, she's gonna go through all of those grants, and she's gonna create a spreadsheet to say what the grant is, what the criteria is, and that way we can kind of outline and see what we can apply for and what the deadline.
cool. And then watching, you know, we haven't talked about this amphitheater that was designed and already built by the town. And it's never been used, but, you know, part of the plan of downtown includes
Amphitheater.
an amphitheater. And we kind of sort of have one. Now, this is almost a reverse amphitheater since the stage is above, when usually it's the
You
other
have
way
to be
around.
really tall to attend
Which is
something.
maybe why. But, you know, things like that, though, could potentially qualify if we get plans together and ideas and thoughts that, you know, we
Is there
can.
anybody else besides Eric or Nikki that would want to do the TML grant? Anybody else?
It depends on what kind of time commitment it
It's
would
all
be.
day. Last one was in San Antonio, they move around, so I'm not sure where.
Put me on as a,
Find out when the next one is and send it out to everybody.
like for 2 hours in Mesquite, I can do that.
I do know it's an all-day program.
Or you say you get these
Yeah,
periodically?
I can give, I'll forward it to you.
Yeah,
And then
that'd be
you
cool.
can, once I forward it to you, you can click on it and go on and sign up
Sign
for
up.
updates and,
Are we allowed to keep these?
yeah, if you want.
They're
I only
just-
had a couple of them, but there's different ones. Yeah.
Oh, it looks like our school district should be applying for some of these too.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
They should be applying for everything they possibly can. But, here. Any other questions, comments? Move on to item number 9, discuss board requests for future agenda items and events. Nothing? How's our butterfly thing going?
Well, it's kind of on hold with the whole Samuel, thing,
Nor.
yeah. So I don't wanna do anything until we know more.
When are we gonna know more? Who knows?
They're going out right now for an RFQ process, so as soon as they have, I don't think, it hasn't even been posted yet, so.
And who's controlling that, Dallas? Anybody involved? Right.
He was a state congressman or senator. wasn't
Yeah,
he?
he's a
That was
state
that
rep
one.
in Austin.
So he should have
Some idea.
decent experience.
Nothing else? All right.
Executives.
We can move to executive session. It is 7:53 p.m. We are moving to executive session. Section 551.072, deliberations about real property, Lake Ray Hubbard SES Rail Spur.